Building and maintaining a pond that's crystal clear is very easy. In this video, I'll show you how easy it is. This video will also be very useful for people with an existing pond who are struggling with water quality and clarity. And if you don't already know me, my name is Kev, and the aim of my channel is to help people build and maintain ponds without spending a fortune. So if that sounds like something that interests you, you might like to subscribe and visit my website ozponds.com for lots of helpful resources. So there's three common issues that people have. Green water, where the water looks like it's pea soup. Number two, the water has a brown tinge to it. This can be light or quite dark. And number three, the pond is muddy and it just never clears up. So let's go through them in order, but first I'm curious if you want to know how you can maintain clean rock and pebble in a pond. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you're interested in, and I'll do a video on that in the future. But for now, let's focus on the water itself. So first we have green water. This is caused by lots of single-celled algae floating around inside the pond. This is a common problem in fish ponds, and it's also really easy to fix. The fish inside the pond produce waste or nutrients, most commonly ammonia and phosphate. The more fish and waste, the more ammonia and phosphate is produced. Now luckily there are naturally occurring bacteria that can process these nutrients, and so can plants. So if the water is green, it indicates that there's too many nutrients being produced and not enough being consumed. This is one of the reasons that we add filters to ponds and aquariums. We need to grow enough bacteria to process the amount of nutrient being produced. There are some other reasons too, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a bit. But for now, let's just focus on the bacteria component. So these bacteria need to grow on something. It can be anything that's wet. But the more wet surface available to the bacteria, the more bacteria we can potentially grow. And remember, the more waste and nutrient being produced, the more bacteria we need to process it. For an example, this small aquarium with a few small fish can easily be filtered using a simple sponge filter. As air is pumped into the base of a tube, it displaces water and new water moves into the new space that is created. On the sponge there are these good bacteria living, so as the water comes in contact with them, they're able to process some of this ammonia and phosphate that's in the water. And the sponge also has the benefit that it traps solid waste like fish poo or uneaten food. This can be removed manually by squeezing out the sponge from time to time. By trapping the waste, it gives the bacteria and tiny organisms the ability to literally eat some of this waste that's trapped in the sponge. But they will never get it all, and eventually it would clog up if you never squeezed the sponge or rinsed it off. So that's basically how a very simple filter works, and in this small fish tank, it works perfectly. But if I take that same sponge filter and I put it in a fish pond with 100 goldfish, it gets overwhelmed. It simply can't grow enough bacteria to process the waste and nutrients of 100 fish. But nature is pretty remarkable, and algae will start to rapidly grow, because there is so much nutrient available. And now I have a green pond. So to fix this, I could use 100 sponge filters, or buy or create a different filter that can grow enough bacteria. In my own ponds, I like to build bog filters because they're large and they mimic the way that wetlands process nutrients in nature. They also allow you to add plants to your filter system. Plants like algae and bacteria can also use the nutrients and waste that the fish produce to grow, therefore removing it from the water. So you can filter the water using just plants or just bacteria, but when you use them in combination, it creates a more robust ecosystem. So now you're probably thinking, okay, that's great, but how do I know how big my filter needs to be? Or if I have plants that can filter the water, do I even need a filter? And those are good questions. Some ponds don't need a dedicated filter, and if you want to see how that's done, I'll put a link to a video in the description. But that's only useful for ponds with small fish numbers and lots of plants. If your pond will have lots of fish or turtles or ducks and open water, you're going to need to circulate water through a dedicated filter that is properly sized. If you want to build a natural looking, low-tech, easy to maintain pond, you can download the formulas that I use to size everything for my ponds. There should be a link to that in the description. I've also created a free bog filter calculator. That will help you size the bulk filter for whatever type of pond you have. It'll also tell you the ideal pump size. There are also links to energy efficient pumps, and that's all available on my website, ozponds.com. And again, there's a link in the description. And of course, you don't need to build your own filter. If you prefer, you can buy a ready-made filter. Just remember that you need to size it appropriately to your type of pond and the amount of livestock in the pond. The manufacturer will have guides. And if the water does go green, you simply don't have enough bacteria or plants to consume the nutrients. You need to increase the size of the filter, add more plants, or reduce the amount of fish or how much you're feeding them. I should also mention that sometimes, and very often in brand new ponds, the water will go green even with good filtration, and that's simply because the bacteria hasn't had time to establish. If you want to learn more about that, I made a video on how long it takes a pond to mature, and I'll link that in the description as well. Sun is another thing that people will worry about. Sun and warm water can help algae grow, that's correct. But if I take 2 glasses of water from an established fish pond, so they already have good bacteria and microorganisms, and I put them in the sun, I can't get green water to grow. There's not enough nutrients, and the little critters living in the water are eating it. But if I add a bunch of fish food in one of the glasses, bammo, I get green water. There's just too many nutrients for the organisms and bacteria to consume. It's that simple. So I personally have a number of ponds that get loads of sun and the water is still clean, clear and healthy because there's enough bacteria and plants consuming the waste that is produced. Before we move on to brown water and how to fix it, some of you might be wondering about UV lights or filters for treating green water. And you are correct, UV lights can be used to eliminate green water. As the single-celled algae passes through the light, it's killed. Now on my ponds and aquariums, I have no UV light at all. I'm not exactly against them, I just find them unnecessary for the way I set up my ponds. Low tech, low cost, and low maintenance. I would prefer to see the water go green so I know that something is out of whack. I don't want to do weekly water tests, I'm lazy, and the green water will let me know and keep the parameters safe for the fish. Then I can adjust the size of my filters, reduce the amount of fish, or how much I'm feeding them, and the water will clear up. So that's how you fix or eliminate green water. More things consuming nutrients than producing it. Easy peasy. Now brown tinted water. I personally don't mind brown tinted water, but I know some of you do. So what causes it and how can we fix it? Brown water is caused by organic materials breaking down inside the pond. A perfect example is ponds under trees that drop lots of leaves. Here in Australia, things like gum nuts falling in the pond will certainly turn your pond brown. I imagine things like pond needles would do the same in the Northern Hemisphere. Anyway, branches, leaves, twigs, gum nuts and pine needles will leach tannins into the water and that turns the water brown. The more tannins, the darker the water will become. So while tannins alter the colour of the water, they can also alter the overall water chemistry and have a potential to lower your pH, but not always. Some fish and organisms prefer more acidic water that has a lower pH, and some prefer a higher or more alkaline environment. But I'm always of the view that I don't want to try and manage my pH levels. I'd much prefer to work with whatever is going to be easiest for my environment. So I basically just let nature figure itself out, and the plants, fish and organisms that thrive in those conditions will be the plants, fish and organisms that I keep. So while tannins can cause the water to go tea-stained or sometimes very dark indeed, and they can alter the water's chemistry, but it's not all bad. The presence of tannins can reduce light penetration, and that will make it much harder for algae to grow. Tannins can also be a food source for a host of beneficial organisms, and that's going to help the overall pond ecosystem. High fish loads and overfeeding can also contribute to brown water. In a pond with extra nutrient, it will help fuel plant growth and algae. The breaking down of plants inside the pond and the boom and bust cycle of algae increases the amount of organic material decomposing inside the pond. Even in a pond without plants, high fish numbers or overfeeding can contribute to brown water. If this material isn't being filtered out, it simply accumulates as sediment. If this material is being stirred up, it will make the water appear brown. Diatoms are another possibility. They're common in all water bodies, and they can contribute to the brown appearance of a pond. So to combat brown water, you probably first want to look at some form of mechanical filtration. A mechanical filter is simply a filter that removes solid materials from the water. So before, when we were talking about the sponge filter in an aquarium, it not only provides a wet surface that grows good bacteria, but as water is passed through, it also traps waste. That makes it both a biological and a mechanical filter. Biological because it grows bacteria, it's alive, and mechanical because it traps solid waste. So when I design a bog filter for my ponds, I want it to trap solid waste and grow bacteria. I also like to include an intake bay or a skimmer, and that will pull in surface debris. Of course, all this debris and trapped sediment needs to be removed from time to time, otherwise they just break down inside the pond anyway. But setting it up this way, I find I can go for very long periods of time and maintain very clear water, even though plenty of sediment builds up inside the pond. The more often that you net your pond, vacuum it, or clean your filters, the less sedimentation and organic materials breaking down inside the pond you're going to have. But like I said, I'm lazy. And I also find it very beneficial for the fish inside the pond. I don't need to feed them. There are plenty of organisms, bacteria, algae and fungi feeding on the organic matter, and the fish in turn feed on them. But you don't need to be like me. You might want it to look much cleaner, and that's fine. I've gone a little bit off topic here. So if you can't stand the look of the brown water, you've got a few options. Number one, like we just discussed, reduce the amount of organic materials inside the pond. If that's leaf litter, twigs and branches. This might mean at certain times of year you'll need to net the pond, and you'll probably need to manually net or vacuum the pond regularly. And you might want to use a more robust mechanical filter than my lazy method with a bog and intake bay. If that's the case, you'll need something with sponges that you can clean and rinse off often, or something like a drum or sieve filter that will separate out very small organic particles from the water. And number two, you might need some chemical filtration. The two most common are activated carbon and ozone. Activated carbon is a funny one because I feel like it's kind of biological, kind of mechanical, and kind of chemical, but it's always referred to as a chemical filter, and who am I to say otherwise? Activated carbon has a vast surface area and porous structure. This allows it to absorb a wide range of organic compounds, toxins, and impurities from the water. In regards to the treating of brown water, it's the ability to remove dissolved organic compounds that will leave the water looking cleaner. How much carbon to add seems to vary depending on the process used to create the carbon and the quality of the material used. So if that's a path that you wish to go down, I'd just use the manufacturer's guidelines. And activated carbon isn't something you just add once and it fixes the problem. Once its pores are full, it cannot absorb any more dissolved organic material and it stops working. Therefore, you need to replace it often. Again, the manufacturer will have guidelines. There's also some other synthetic absorbent materials like Purigen that I believe can be reactivated and reused, and it provides the same benefits as activated carbon. I'll put a link below if you want to explore that further. And then we have ozone. Ozone's a powerful oxidizer. When it's introduced to water, it reacts with various organic and inorganic substances, and it breaks them down. So again, by targeting organic substances inside the pond, the ozone improves the clarity of the pond. Ozone systems in a pond need to be sized correctly, and you need special monitors that will turn the ozone off if the level of oxidization becomes too high. Again, ozone isn't something that I personally use, but it is a very viable option to improve water clarity. If it is something that you want to use in your pond, be sure to speak to someone that knows what they're doing and how to size the system for your needs. But just remember, a bit of brown tinge in the water isn't a bad thing. Ponds don't need to look like swimming pools to be healthy. Okay, let's move on to muddy looking water. This is a common problem in brand new ponds or clay-lined ponds. Suspended particles in the water, including clay and silt, carry a negative charge. Like when you have magnets and you try to join them together. They need to join to an opposite. The same poles repel each other. Suspended clay particles can behave in the same way. These tiny particles are just floating around and they refuse to clump together and settle, and that makes the water look like a muddy mess. So to combat this, we can add a flocculant to the water, which carries a positive charge. It can neutralize the negative charge, and then the fine clay particles can actually clump together and sink or become larger and get trapped in the pond's filter. So in a man-made line pond, treating with a flocculant will generally fix your problem very quickly. If you have good filtration, you'll probably never need to use it again. Although it can be used if you have a lot of organic material that's very fine and floating around in the water. In unlined ponds, which are usually large and positioned in a catchment zone, it's much harder to treat. For one, the cost of the flocculant may be prohibitive on such large systems. And even if you succeed, what happens the next time a lot of water fills the dam or pond? It's going to stir all that clay and silt up again. These types of ponds also aren't going to have dedicated biological and mechanical filters. If you have full control over the catchment zone, you'd want to do things like slow down water runoff so it doesn't pick up so much sediment. This would be creating obstacles to purposely slow down the water, like swales, and you'd also want to encourage plenty of vegetation around the pond and in the catchment zone, and that's going to help stop erosion. Having a diverse range of aquatic plants inside the pond itself can also help to lock that sediment up in their root zones. It's not an easy quick fix on large unlined ponds. It takes a long time and patience. I guess that's why lots of people just simply add a dye so it doesn't actually look muddy, and that's certainly an option. I did make a video a while ago on how I would filter a large unlined pond, so you can check that out if you're interested. I'll link that along with links to flocculant and pond dye down in the description. So that's the three most common issues that I get contacted about in regard to the appearance of the actual water. If you want to build your ponds so they are low cost and low maintenance, you can follow my guides available on ozponds.com. Less common, sometimes water in a pond may go cloudy. This is usually caused by bacterial or algae blooms. It'll often self-correct, like say it's early spring and there was a lot of organic material inside the pond, and as the weather warms up, the bacteria and algae, they also get going and work to process this waste. So like always, you can give it a helping hand by removing some of that buildup of organic material. Another one is excessive foam on the surface of the water, and this is caused by protein. Maybe something's died inside the pond, or you're overfeeding with high protein foods. Again, once you address the issue, it should self-correct. I hope this video was helpful. If you thought so, it's free to tickle the thumbs up button. It really enjoys it, and so do I. Thanks for watching. See ya.